Everybody, my name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, and I'm pleased to have on the new Wilby head coach, Preston Soeprasetyo. Coach, first and foremost, congratulations on being named the head coach of the football program for Wilby.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You know, I was reading the Republican American article that Mark Jaffe wrote, and he always does a fine job with Republican American, and kind of learning a little bit about the history of kind of your background and hearing how you were in Illinois, New York, and just well traveled, man. I mean, and then you played football at Lehigh. Kind of break that down for people who may not know as much about you if they didn't read the article.
Yeah, one of the first questions that Mark Jaffe asked me was, "So where are you originally from?" And I said, "That's a great question. It depends on your definition of from." So I was born in Waterbury. I'm the youngest of four, and a lot of my siblings' memories were as kids were in Connecticut. And at the age of 5, we moved out to Illinois. Ended up moving back here for a stint when I was in 7th grade. So for 1 year, I did actually go to North End Middle School. Moved back out to Illinois after that. Found my way graduating high school out in Carmel, New York. And like you said, ended up going and playing football at Lehigh University. And a lot of my brother's friends who I became really close with, they graduated from Wilby. My brother graduated from Wilby, met my now wife through them, and always felt like an indirect tie to Wilby, even though I never went there myself. And I actually had a year of coaching over at Woodland with Chris Maffo back in 2017. And I had to take a year off because I was pursuing educational opportunities. And when I was ready to get back into the swing of things, they had their coaching staff filled, but I saw that Wilby was looking for an assistant. So I jumped on that in 2019. And, that kind of led me to where I am today.
Now, do you think because of kind of your background at Lehigh, now you were a wide receiver, if I remember, correct?
Correct.
Now, do you think, having that kind of background at a high level like Lehigh can be kind of like an attractive piece, especially because let's be honest, football in Waterbury has been tough the last couple of years because I think, you're also the assistant coach for Watertown. It's all about basketball. Everybody wants to be able to be that superstar, but right. Football, because there's so many athletes in Waterbury, if you can get that attraction to football and just kind of, I kind of consider it as raw talent. You can turn them, you can turn young men into football players if they just put the work in. So do you think having that background could help?
Well, the one thing I think it will do is kind of help the players kind of buy in a little bit. I saw that in 2019, we had a great young skilled player, Andres Urena, and he was probably underutilized prior to me getting there. And, he really just bought into everything I was saying because he knew, hey, this guy's played at a pretty high level. I can trust what he's saying. And you hope to think that will have a trickle effect. Guys will say, listen, we got a coach who has played at a high level and he knows his stuff. And we want to make sure that we're going out there and playing hard for him. And, word of mouth is the, great equalizer there. So, you're right. Sometimes in Waterbury schools, the focus isn't as much on football. And that's really an unfortunate reality that we live in. But I really do think that the guys who we have there, they know that, my background has put me into a position where, what I'm trying to teach them is well ingrained and not, off the cuff.
And speaking of that year too, I know Wilby actually, from what I was not able to broadcast, I think a Wilby game during the 2019 season, but you guys actually started out very, very well. You had a very good record. And I know it kind of didn't end the way you wanted to, I think, because a lot of times it's easy to be the hunter rather than the hunted. And I felt like teams were starting to say, oh, this is not a typical Wilby team. They're pretty good. We need to be on the top of our game. And I think that's something that Wilby wasn't prepared for at the time because of just the lack of, meaningful games. I mean, let's be fair. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat it. Yeah. It's been rough, but yeah, I felt like even during the pandemic and because of the lost season and such, there's still a lot of talent on that team still to carry over going into this season. And that's got to make you happy as now a first-year head coach.
Sure. And one of the things that I was really excited about in 2019 was the culture that the senior class at that time created, because all the underclassmen, they saw what it took to get where we were. And even though we finished the season 4-6 that year, and those seniors had only won, I think, maybe 2 games in their 3 years prior to that, nobody looked at that 4-6 record and said, wow, we did a great job. Everybody thought that we left a lot on the table and was coming back hungry. And we knew we were losing a lot of great players. Andres Urena, I mentioned before, Deshaun Wilson, Raekwon James. Those guys were, key cogs in what we were doing. But everybody who was on the team coming back in the offseason last year and was ready to put in that work, they knew what it was going to take. And that, like I said, that culture was kind of, those seeds were planted, and those guys were helping to build something that we really wanted to build.
Now, when I think of a coach as a first year, typically who is, and I'm not saying about yourself because you're in the program, but for a coach who is newly into the program, has not had any time previously as an assistant coach like you were and such, I feel like it would take a little bit longer to kind of get into the minds and kind of attract the ears, get the attention of the players to have to buy what you're selling. But I feel like with you having been there in 2019, with your background at college, with the high level at Lehigh, I just feel like that could kind of speed up a little bit the process of which was lost in 2020 due to COVID.
Yeah, I would agree. And especially for the guys who are returning. And we've seen a couple of new faces come out who either incoming, they would have been incoming freshmen, so now they're sophomores, or some guys who, hadn't played football before and just were like, listen, I've been cooped up in my house for a year and a half. I want to do something different. I feel like I don't have to, spend a lot of time, selling myself so that message gets, conveyed. And like I said, the assistant coaches do a great job, and we all kind of make sure that we're on the same page. And the leaders who are in the locker room and are going to continue to lead this team, they've been there and they know. So they're going to continue to preach that message and make sure that we're all here with one goal in mind, and that's to win football games. Now,
when you were named, as far as when you got the call, I mean, was it a call or a text that you were named the head coach for Wilby?
It was interesting. First, it was a text from, like I said, Coach Damon Atkinson, who's another assistant coach, and I knew that he was going through the process of the interview process, and we both were very supportive of one another, knew that we wanted one of us to be in this position. And he texted me first and said, hey, have you heard anything? Because I got word that the position's been filled. And I was kind of looking around like, no, I haven't heard anything. And I was like, maybe they are, just not telling me something or keeping it a secret. I don't know. And then, a couple hours later, the athletic director, Mr. Piccolo, he just sent me a text and said, hey, can you call me when you get a chance? And I happened to be on my lunch break. So I remember I called him right away. And he was like, geez, that was really fast. And then he told me it was going to be recommended, and it was just a matter of the board approving it. And then as soon as that happened, I got a text from Coach Piccolo and basically just saying, congratulations, like we're ready to roll.
And again, I could be wrong here, but I think it's great because I think each team, and you can make the case kind of depending on the team, it's good to kind of keep somebody in-house because of the familiarity. I mean, Coach Piccolo, who's been at Wilby forever, is also the AD. He's coached for Wilby basketball. So much respect for him. He's always been great to me when I've called the games. And he knows the kids. He knows kind of the talent spectrum. And he has a feel kind of for who can be the good cop, but also the bad cop. Because, these young men, they've got to be, you kind of have to nurture them, but you also got to be tough on them as well. And I think to be able to keep you, man, to be able to keep somebody who's been in the program, knows these players, and has an idea kind of what to do, I think is only beneficial for Wilby to carry forward what was a very good in the eyes of a lot of people in 2019.
Yeah, and a lot of people have different opinions on, promoting somebody in-house, if you will. And it's one of those things where it's got to be the right fit. And I think that the kids who are there are happy that there's going to be a level of consistency. I'm speaking specifically of the rising juniors and seniors who are, got some playing time as freshmen and sophomore. I've, gotten some emails, some questions from kids like, hey, are we going to be doing this like we did, a couple of years ago or the last season? Are we going to be, changing things up a little bit? And you can kind of see in their eyes that they know that what was there is going to continue to be built upon. They're going to have to relearn anything. Or at least not a lot, as far as like the system goes. But I think that level of consistency is going to be beneficial. And that's, one of those things that I think that both Dame and I saw when we were both kind of hoping that one of us was going to be in this position.
Now, have you been able to go through workouts, team meetings and such?
Yeah, we've been having some off-season conditioning going on for the last couple of weeks. We've had, some fair numbers, guys who haven't been able to be there. They've been in good communication, letting us know what the situation is, whether it's vacations, because these are still kids, or some kids picking up work opportunities. But for the most part, we've gotten a solid core group of guys who have been coming in, and you can see the work that they've been putting in, not just over the summer, but over the last, lost season.
Now, with the players that you have seen, and I know you can't speak for the players who haven't been there consistently, but for the ones that have you noticed anything as far as, again, because of the lost season in 2020, you kind of wonder how are players going to be physically and mentally? How has that been?
Mhm. It's been up and down. There have been some kids who have come in, and you wish that they had a little bit more drive during the last year and a half. But unfortunately, you don't know what the situations are at home. Some kids have nothing but the opportunity to go and work out, and that progress has shown. I mean, we've got a couple of guys who it is clear that for the last year and change, they've been putting in a lot of work, and I think the results are going to speak for themselves this year. And then there's other kids who haven't done as much, and like I said, you don't know what the reasoning behind it is, if they have work commitments, if they've got babysitting commitments or whatever. And you just hope that between now and September 9th, they're able to put their head down and be ready to put in some work and get ready for our first game.
Now, as far as you, coach, looking at schematically and what you like to do, because you were a wide receiver, I'm assuming you're more an offensive guy than defensive guy, right?
Yes and no. I mean, I would say I'm more offensive minded, but one of the things that my coaches, even at Lehigh, were really would speak highly upon is one of the things I did well was know why we were doing certain things based on the looks that teams were giving us. So if you're playing offense at a high level, you have to know a thing or two about defense and what teams are doing and how to beat them. So 2 years ago, my primary responsibility was actually as the defensive coordinator, and that was something that I really took with a lot of pride because football is football. You, as offensive minded as I consider myself, I have to know what would be able to stop me. So I got to be able to be defensive minded at the exact same time.
Oh yeah, I mean, think about the NFL. I could name so many coaches that have had so many different hats, both offensively and defensively. It's
Sure.
crazy. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago there was a coach for the Chiefs who was a quarterbacks coach who was teaching the running backs. You
Mhm.
find it pretty cool. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I think to be able for you to have the opportunity to go and have and kind of put yourself in, wear different hats, go to different sides of the ball, especially being a first year head coach, just to kind of see what's around is only, like I mentioned early, beneficial.
Yeah. And I think that my coaching experiences overall kind of help with that. I have experience coaching basketball over at Watertown. I coached over in Thompson as well. I've coached baseball over in Thompson. Ended up coaching at Wilby this past year as an assistant. I even have some experience coaching soccer. So being an overall athletically minded individual has helped in a lot of different capacities. And then couple that with the fact that I'm a teacher, you kind of find different ways and through trial and error are able to figure out what's going to help motivate certain kids or what's going to be the reward that they're seeking. And everybody's wired a little bit differently. And that's kind of helped me in my teaching and coaching endeavors.
Coach, I really do appreciate you coming on. I do have one more question for you real quick. Because I'm going to be
Sure.
broadcasting one of your games, and who knows, maybe I could be broadcasting more down the road. I will actually be I'll be on WATR tomorrow to preview the NVL schedule and to kind of preview the team. So this is great to be able to kind of learn a little bit about Wilby and what you have and kind of who you are, because you're one of the coaches I will be talking about as one of 6, if I remember right. Now I know
Yeah.
St. Paul has an opening now because their head coach previously went to go on to another school. So it's great to be able to have this, but kind of just what can I expect from the broadcast booth from a Wilby team? Kind of is there a motto or a saying, something that you're preaching to the young men?
Well, one thing that all of my students would probably be the ones to tell you this is I have a big poster in my classroom that says the grind never stops. And that's a phrase that I always live by. And I kind of preach that in the sense that you should always be looking to improve at something. And I had this phrase rephrased actually for me by someone who kind of put things into perspective. They said, "Do your best until you can do better, and then do better." And it kind of, iconicizes who Wilby is as a team and who I want our players to be. I don't expect guys to come in tomorrow and be able to bench press 400 pounds, but if guys every day are coming in and putting in the work and continuing to improve upon their game, then I think good things are going to come, because I do think that we have the right guys leading the charge. I do think that we have a great coaching staff together, and I think we have guys who are really hungry and ready to play some football.
Coach, I can't wait to do some Wilby games and be able to talk about this tomorrow on WATR. Thanks so much for being able to come on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Chris.
That'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm on a journey to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.